Diamond and Pearl are some of the greatest Pokemon games to ever release. When I played them all those years ago, it's set in stone the love I have for Pokemon. A few years ago, they were remade for the Nintendo Switch and I fell in love with them all over again. But I never attempted a hardcore Nuzlocke on them, so today that's going to change. This run was my 6th and final attempt of the challenge. Here are the rules, so pause the video if you want to read them. With all of that out of the way, this is my Pokemon Shining Pearl Hardcore Nuzlocke. Enjoy. I named myself Snorlax and the rival Barry, then I changed all the necessary settings for the Nuzlocke. Once that was set up, I made my way to Barry's house just for him to run right into me. He's always in a hurry. We then made our way through Route 201 to Lake Verity to grab the starter of the run. I chose Turtwig because it got me to the 7th gym before wiping to Abomasnow on my first attempt. The runs after that with Chimchar, I never got past the 4th gym. After blatantly stealing Pokemon from a random suitcase, I met the professor of the region, Professor Rowan. At his lab, Rowan then gives me the stolen Turtwig, allowing me to nickname him, and I went with Leonardo after the Ninja Turtle. Plus, it's the same name I gave my first ever Turtwig when I first played Pearl on the original DS. With all of that out of the way, Dawn shows me around town and tells me to go home to say goodbye to my mom so I can start my journey. Once there, Barry's mom stops by to give me a parcel to deliver to Barry while on my adventure. With my hat returned to me, I met up once again with Dawn, where she teaches me how to catch Pokemon and gives me Pokeballs, which means the Nuzlocke has started. Pokeballs in hand, I went straight back to Lake Verity to catch the first encounter of the run, God the Bidoof. Right after that, it was the Route 201 and 202 encounters, Silver the Starly and Jiminy the Kricketot, making it 4 total Pokemon before the first town. Arriving in Jubilife City, I headed straight to the Poke School to give Barry his parcel, and I got the Poketch after answering 3 questions from some clowns. After I grabbed the old rod, I headed out to Route 218 to catch my next encounter, Viper the Magikarp, and after, I went straight to 204 to catch Budew to have some other options for the first gym. With Lola the Budew added to the team, I figured it was time to have my first ever battle with Barry. For his first Pokemon Starly, I set up with Growth, allowing me to hit a bit harder. Thankfully, his Starly didn't do anything but use Growl, allowing Leonardo to take it out with no problem. And for some reason, he had his Chimchar only use Leer, losing him the battle, and man, sometimes the AI is just dumb. After wiping the floor with Barry, I went ahead and got my Route 203 encounter, Luna the Shinx. I made my way into the Orberg Gate, picked up the TM for Rock Smash, and made my way through the tunnel connecting Route 203 to Orberg City, where the first gym is located. Upon arriving in town, I discovered that the gym is closed, so I need to find the leader in the mine where he's smashing rocks. While in the mine, I encountered Knack the Geodude and did some level grinding before heading to the gym. Once there, it was time to face the first gym leader of the run, Rorik. I led with Leonardo and used Growth, anticipating the Stealth Rock to get a free turn of setting up. Next, I use a Razor Leaf to knock out the Geodude with one shot. Onix enters the battlefield and withstands a Razor Leaf attack thanks to its sturdy ability. It then uses a Rock Throw right before being taken out with another Razor Leaf. His final Pokemon, Cranidos, comes in and outspeeds Leonardo with a strong headbutt, which was a close call, but Cranidos went down to a boosted Razor Leaf, securing the win. With the first gym badge collected, I headed back to Jubilife City, where I find Dawn and Professor Rowan being hassled by some Galactic goons. But they didn't put up much of a fight and ran off, so I continued through Route 204 and the Ravage Path Cave, where I found my next team member, Batman the Zubat. Arriving in Floroma Town and Route 205, I am stopped by a little girl whose dad is being held captive at the Valley Windworks. So I went to check it out just to find a lone grunt standing at the door, and in order to get inside, I needed to defeat him in battle. Which I do, but then he goes inside and locks the door. How rude, man. While searching for a way inside, I picked up the gift Mew from an old lady that I named Lord. I managed to find my way to the Floroma Meadow, where 2 Galactic grunts were causing more trouble. I battled them both and came out on top, but as they were running away, one of them dropped a keycard to the Valley Windworks building. Making my way back, I decided to catch my Route 205 encounter, Sheila the Shellos. Then unlocked the door, ready for what's on the other side. Inside, I quickly dealt with all the grunts except for Commander Mars, who has ended many hardcore Nuzlocke attempts with her Purugly, including some of mine. This time, it wasn't so bad though. I begin the battle by setting up with a couple of curses, making Leonardo a lot tougher so he can take a hit and still be fine. Zubat then uses U-turn and switches out to Purugly, where I get a free attack on it. After a fake out making me flinch, I was able to hit with a Razor Leaf, defeating the biggest threat. Zubat is sent back out but goes down to a boosted tackle. With Commander Mars defeated, the little girl was reunited with her father, and so I made my way through the rest of Route 205 to Eterna Forest. Once there, I find a woman named Cheryl who asked me for a bit of help to escort her through the forest. After a couple of battles and, believe it or not, 0 wild encounters, we reached the exit. Finally, in Eterna City, I went straight to the gym to try and earn my second gym badge from Gardania. Silver starts off the battle by taking out her Cherubi with 1 wing attack, bringing me 1 step closer to the second gym badge. Turtwig was up next, and after a wing attack putting it in the red, I figured it was time to set up with some double teams because I knew Turtwig was going to stall with Reflect. After wasting the Reflect turn, Silver takes out Turtwig even with Gardania spamming healing items. The battle came down to Roserade, who outsped attempting to land a stun spore, but the move missed. Silver then unleashes a powerful wing attack dealing significant damage. But it doesn't quite take it out, and Roserade then uses a citrus berry, getting it back into the green. Roserade finally lands a stun spore on Silver, but I was prepared for this to happen, expecting she would try to paralyze me. So I gave Silver a cherry berry, which heals the paralysis. With a decisive wing attack, Roserade was taken down, securing victory over the second gym leader. After defeating Gardania and earning the second gym badge, I encountered Cynthia, who handed me the TM for cut, but it had me wondering, if she's meant to be the champion, why didn't she take action against Team Galactic while she was right there in Eterna City? Instead, she left a 10-year-old kid to handle the situation. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, I made my way into the Galactic building and went up to the top floor where I find another Galactic commander who kidnapped some Pokemon. Commander Jupiter can be another run-killing fight, but I was ready and challenged her to the battle, and it was on. Knowing she would lead with Zubat, I sent out Luna, and with 1 spark, it was knocked out, leaving 1 Pokemon left, Skuntank. Skuntank then poisons Luna with poison gas, and after a few turns of them trading blows, I switch out Luna because she was far too low on HP. I sent in Silver, who tanked a flamethrower and took out Skuntank with a quick attack, but I nearly lost her due to forgetting about Aftermath. After defeating Commander Jupiter, she fled, leaving the captive Pokemon behind. I then got the underground kit from the old man, then went to the bike shop where the owner thanked me with a gifted bike for saving his Pokemon. I traveled through Cycling Road, met Dawn, who gave me the Verse Seeker, and then headed into Mount Cornet where I ran into a strange guy. After that, I grabbed my encounter in the cave, Jingle-a-Chingling, and proceeded to Hearthome City, which is the location of the 5th gym. But I wasn't quite ready for that just yet. I headed to the contest hall where I met this city's gym leader, Fantina, and right after that, Barry challenges me to another battle. Like usual, this battle was a breeze. Lord takes out both his Starly and Weasel with a Rock Tomb and a Grass Knot. His Roselia gets put down by a Rock Tomb, and last but not least, Viper Okos the Monferno with a Bite. After Barry got his butt whooped, I continued onward through Route 209 to Celestic Town, where I called it a night. The next day rolls around and I proceed forward through Route 210 towards 215. Quickly caught my encounter for the route, Pegasus the Ponyta, and headed into Veilstone City. Once in Veilstone City, I went over to the department store to pick up some useful TMs and then made my way to the gym. Inside, I solved the gym puzzle and finally was ready to take on Maylene, the fighting gym leader. She didn't put up much of a fight, and Lord just took out all of her Pokemon one by one with no pushback. Lord was kind of OP. After Lord completely stomped out the 3rd gym, I was stopped by Dawn informing me that some Team Galactic members stole her Pokédex and she needed my help to get it back. We then made quick work of the would-be thieves and retrieved her Pokédex, and I was able to get the TM for Fly, which will make this challenge so much easier. I headed straight for Pastoria City, where I grabbed the TM for Defog and went straight into the 4th gym battle with Crash Awake. This battle was a different story compared to the 3rd gym. I led with Luna in hopes of taking out Gyarados with 1 Volt Switch, but it doesn't quite go down. Viper is sent in for the mirror match, trading crunches back and forth until his Gyarados was defeated. Quagsire comes out, so I send in Leonardo for a 4 times effective Razor Leaf, sending it packing. Crash Awake then sends out his Floatzel, and knowing it has Ice Fang, I swapped out Leonardo for Lord, but this is where I make a huge misplay. Lord tanks an Ice Fang, putting it very low in HP, but I didn't think he would outspeed Lord, and I paid the price for my mistake. Panicked, I sent out Viper, hoping to avoid a wipe. Thankfully, she finished out the battle, but it came at a heavy cost. With the brutal loss of Lord, I kept going, only to find a suspicious grunt staring at a wall. Once he was confronted, he ran like a bat out of hell. While I was following, Barry stops me for another battle, but Viper sweeps his entire team with no issue. Get out of my way, Barry. After the battle, Luna did evolve into a Luxray, and I continued to follow the weird grunt to Route 214 where he battled me and lost. On the same route, I ran into Cynthia, who gives me medicine needed for the Psyduck on Route 210. Back on Route 210, I gave the Psyduck the medicine and they cleared the path. Cynthia then appears once more and asks me to deliver an old charm to her grandmother in Celestic Town. At last, in Celestic Town, I gave Cynthia's grandma the old charm, and in return, she gives me the TM for Surf. After that, I met the weird dude from Mount Coronet, but this time he tells me his name, and it was Cyrus, the leader of Team Galactic. All of that out of the way, I headed back to Hearthome City to take on the 5th gym, and after a bit of math, it was time to face off with Fantina. Luna hits Drifblim with the Volt Switch, taking it out, and I sent in Leonardo to handle Fantina's Gengar. It used Confuse Ray, but just like Gardenia's Roserade, I anticipated this and equipped Leonardo with the Persim Berry to recover quickly. He then took out Gengar with an Earthquake. Her ace Pokemon, Miss Magius, takes a super effective bite, ending the battle. Following a successful gym battle, Cynthia informs me to make my way to Canalave City, where I'm stopped by Barry once more for a battle. But only one of his Pokemon put up a fight and he was defeated, so I continued on to the 6th gym. Unexpectedly, Leonardo completely destroyed this gym after setting up a few curses and just crunch and Earthquake spamming my way to victory. After the gym battle, Barry takes me to the library where Professor Rowan tells us to go and check out each of the 3 lakes when a massive explosion erupts. Then the professor urges us to go investigate, but I had better things to do at the moment, like going to the Iron Islands. I'm sure the lakes can wait. Once there, I met Riley, who I partnered up with, and I was able to get my encounter here, Tina the Steelix. After Riley and I defeated some galactic grunts, he gives me a mystery egg. I wonder what can be inside. Okay, now it was time to check on the lakes, since I guess I had nothing better to do. I then ran into another galactic commander, Saturn, who turned out to be the most free battle of all time. How did this person become a commander? Anyway, to Lake Verity to stop Team Galactic again and for round 2 with Mars. Silver takes out her Perugly with one close combat. Viper knocks out Bronzor with a crunch and her Golbat with the same move as well. After defeating Mars again, Rowan tells me to check on Barry, who is at Lake Acuity. But before I go through Mount Coronet, I needed to grab the TM for Strength because I'm a doofus and I forgot to grab it earlier. Now that I have Strength, I can navigate through Mount Coronet to Route 216 and make my way to Lake Acuity and Snow Point City. After finally making it to Lake Acuity, I am stopped and cannot pass into the lake without getting the 7th gym badge first. Fine. Before jumping into it, I've got a clever strategy to share. Beneath the cycling road lies a hidden cave where Gible can appear. However, Bronzor can also appear there, and I definitely didn't want that as my encounter. So, here's the plan I executed. I caught a Bronzor in the underground, named it Belmont, and by doing this, the Dupe's Clause was kicked in, allowing me to enter the secret cave and guarantee a Gible encounter. It worked out perfectly. I caught her and I named her Gabby. Alright, I know that was a lot, let's get back to the run. I also hatched the egg Riley gave to me into a Riolu that I named Ninja, and now I was ready to take on Candace for the 7th gym. She leads with Snover, and I start with Viper, who I have set up with a few Dragon Dances. Viper then uses a Flamethrower, taking her Snover out. Medicham gets OHKO'd by a Waterfall from Viper, which was good because I was really worried about Medicham. Her Sneasel also suffers the same fate and gets one-shot by a Waterfall, which leaves a Abomasnow. This was the Pokemon that ended my furthest run so far, and now it was time to see if I can beat it on this attempt. I swapped out Viper for Pegasus because I knew she was way too low to keep in battle. Pegasus was able to get a strong Flamethrower off before going down to an Earthquake, making this my 2nd death in all the run. I then sent out Silver, who hits with a close combat, knocking out my biggest roadblock so far. I won the battle and the gym badge, but I did lose an important member of the squad. I then made my way back to Lake Acuity to check on Barry, where of course he gets his butt whooped again. After that, I went back to Veilstone City and went through the Galactic headquarters to stop Cyrus and free the captive legendary Pokemon. Cyrus was a pushover, and after defeating him, he gives me the Master Ball and leaves. I then freed the Pokemon and made my way to the top of Mount Coronet to Spear Pillar to save the world from Cyrus and Team Galactic. Once at Spear Pillar, Cyrus then summons a Palkia, which he then controls with the red chain, causing the calamity to begin. I try to stop him, but Mars and Jupiter stop me in my tracks, when out of nowhere Barry shows up to lend me a hand in this fight. This battle wasn't too difficult because I had Barry with me, even though I knocked out a few of his Pokemon. After the battle with them, it seems it was too late to stop him when at the last second the captive Pokemon from earlier break the red chain, saving the world from certain destruction. This makes Cyrus furious, and then he challenges me to a battle. Okay, for this battle I was expecting a super difficult fight, but for some reason his Honchkrow kept using defog and let me set up Viper with dragon dances, making this battle trivial. One by one, his Pokemon just went down to Viper, which put an end to Team Galactic's plans once and for all. Once that joke of a battle was over, I encountered Palkia and didn't waste any time catching it. So I threw the Master Ball I was given by Cyrus earlier. Once caught, I named Palkia Kraken and continued on with my Nuzlocke run. With the world saved, I headed to Sunyshore City to earn the 8th and final gym badge. Once there, I met someone named Flint, and he tells me that the gym leader is basically having a midlife crisis and I need to snap him out of it. I made my way to the lighthouse and persuaded him to return to the gym for our battle. Before facing him though, I adjusted my team to be better prepared for the challenge. After all the prep, I made my way through the gym and its trainers and was face to face with my last hurdle before the Pokemon League. So here we go. It was time. I kid you not, I was not expecting for Sheila to completely destroy his entire team with only taking 40 whole points of damage the entire battle. But she did it, and now I can move on to the next area. 8th badge in hand, I was one step closer to completing my Shining Pearl Nuzlocke. So I made my way through Victory Road to finally arrive at the Pokemon League where the Elite Four are located. But before I head inside, I decided to do a bit of training before I battled Barry. Training out of the way, I felt I was ready to take on Barry for one last battle. Viper takes out his Staraptor with 2 Ice Fangs. Heracross is defeated with 2 Waterfalls. His Floatzel faints to a crunch. Next, he sends out a Snorlax, so I switched out Viper for Ninja. Ninja then one-shots Snorlax with a Drain Punch. Now Infernape comes out, so I switch out Ninja for Sheila, and she was able to tank 2 close combats before hitting him with a super effective Surf. Down to his last Pokemon, Roserade, I sent out Silver for one last Aerial Ace for the win. With Barry finally defeated, it was time to prep for the Elite Four, and I knew I was going to need a couple of new team members. So I went down in the underground and grabbed Zero the Ralts and Mochi the Munchlax, and last but not least, Coco the Togepi. This was my final team before I faced off with the last 5 battles of the run. Once I go inside, win or lose, this is the end of the run. Aaron the Bug Specialist Elite Four member was up first, and just because he's the first one doesn't mean he will be easy. The battle begins with his Dustox versus my Silver, and it was on. I have Silver use Fly knowing the Dustox would go for Toxic, and to my surprise it lands through Fly. But I was prepared for this, so I used a Pecha Berry which cured the poison. Silver was able to one-shot Dustox in the end. On to Heracross, and to be honest, I was really worried about this Pokemon because it has Guts and a Flame Orb, but Silver handled it with a 4 times effective Aerial Ace. Next up was Beautifly, who suffers the same fate as Heracross. Vespiquen comes out just to go down to Silver using Fly. His ace Drapion enters the battle and I bring in Leonardo. Despite taking a Night Slash and a devastating Exozor, Leo powers through, delivering a single Earthquake that takes Drapion down in one clean hit. First Elite Four member down and now 3 to go. Bertha, the second Elite Four member, was up next and she specializes in ground types. Her Quagsire is up first and I sent in Leonardo. Leo outspeeds and lands a 4 times effective Giga Drain, giving Quagsire an early nap. Whiscash is out next and tanks a Giga Drain from Leo, almost taking it out. Leo gets hit with a surprise Ice Beam, almost taking him out. Even though Leo was almost dead, I knew he outsped, so I used another Giga Drain for the knockout. Sudowoodo comes in and takes a powerful Giga Drain, but thanks to its sturdy ability and a Citrus Berry, it lives. Sudowoodo hits Leo with a low kick, putting him back into the yellow after all the Giga Drains healing him up. With one more Giga Drain, it was defeated at last. Her Golem was up next and he was a pain in the butt. Not because he was too strong or anything like that. No, it was because Bertha used all of her full restores and Golem has sturdy. Ugh, so frustrating. Leo's Crunch finally brings it down while almost using up all of my Giga Drain PP in the process. Her ace Hippowdon is next and I have Leo use one of the last Giga Drains it has to put it in the yellow. Hippowdon retaliates with an Ice Fang, almost sending Leo packing. Against my better judgment, I kept Leo in and hits with the one final Giga Drain, taking out Bertha's ace and winning me the battle. Flint the Fire Specialist Elite Four member was up next, if you can call him a Fire Specialist, while only having 2 actual Fire types on his team. Anyway, he leads with Rapidash and I send in Mochi because of the Thick Fat ability, which reduces fire and ice attacks to him by 50%. Plus, I gave him a leftovers for passive healing. Rapidash lands a Hypnosis, putting Mochi to sleep, and then goes for 2 weak flame charges. Mochi wakes up and uses Belly Drum, maxing out his attack stat. After another flame charge, Mochi uses a Body Slam, knocking out Rapidash. Lopunny is sent in and I switch out Mochi for Silver. Silver gets hit with a fire punch and tanks it like a champ and uses Fly next. Lopunny tried using a high jump kick, but since Silver was in the air, it missed, causing massive damage to itself. Next turn, Silver hits with the Fly, taking Lopunny down for good. Steelix is up next and tanks a close combat, but then retaliates with an Iron Tail, putting Silver to 1 HP. That was too close. I should have switched out Silver, but I knew he outsped, so I used one more close combat, and Steelix was no more. Drifblim was up next, so I switched out Silver for Zero. Knowing that this Drifblim has no attacking moves and they planned on baton passing all the stat changes to Infernape, I had to take it down fast, so that's what I did. After a minimize and a strength sap, Zero OHKOs it with one Thunderbolt, saving me a lot of pain in the future. Last but not least, Infernape comes in and hits Zero with the Fire Punch, but it didn't do too much damage. Zero hits with the powerful Psychic, putting it at 1 HP, but because it had Focus Sash, it lived. With the Focus Sash no longer in play, Flint restores it to full HP next turn. However, his efforts were in vain as another Psychic knocks it out, winning the battle. On to the next Elite Four member. The final Elite Four battle before the champion, and one step closer to beating this challenge. Lucian was next, and he specializes in Psychic types. Mr. Mime uses Psychic, doing minimal damage, and Mochi responds with a devastating Heavy Slam, one-shotting it. Next was Medicham, so I switched Mochi out for Silver. But Medicham hits Silver with a high jump kick, which was harder than I thought it would be. Silver then uses Fly, which causes Medicham to miss with a high jump kick, cutting its HP in half, and allowing Silver to take it out with no more issues. Girafarig is sent in, so I recall Silver to send in Gabby. It hits Gabby with a Psychic, so Gabby responds with a powerful crunch, but it doesn't seem to go down. It sets up with a Trick Room, and Lucian uses a full restore, so I have Gabby use Dig to avoid a Psychic. Dig hits it back down to the yellow, but Gabby takes a strong hit from Psychic. Another dig later, Girafarig goes down at last, and Lucian then sends in Alakazam, but Gabby outspeeds and OHKOs it with a crunch. Now here is where I make a massive mistake. Instead of switching out Gabby, I kept her in thinking she would one-shot the Bronzong. I was horribly wrong and lost one of my best team members for it. With one Gyro Ball, it was over for Gabby, and now I have to face Cynthia with only 5 Pokemon. I was sweating bullets at this point, and I truly thought I had just killed the run. I sent in Sheila to take out Bronzong with the Surf, winning the battle, but now it was time for the real battle. I was worried even with 6 Pokemon, but now I was terrified. But there was no going back, so I pushed forward to the end of the road. When out of nowhere, I heard this start to play. Now I was standing face to face with the champion Cynthia, and it set in. This was it. Everything I did to get to this point could be for nothing if I make any mistakes. Here we go. One last battle. She leads with Spiritomb and I start off with Zero. I start to set up with Calm Mind, but Spiritomb hits Zero with the powerful Shadow Ball, which was too strong for my liking. So I decided not to mess around and use Moonblast to take out Spiritomb for good. Next up was Rose Raid, so I switched out Zero for Sheila, but it was another mistake, and Sheila goes down to an Energy Ball. I cannot make any more mistakes like that, because it could cost me the battle. I send in Silver, who tanks a Sludge Bomb and uses Fly to take out Roserade, but he got poisoned by the Poison Point ability, which was not good. Next up was Milotic, and this was the Pokemon I was most worried about, so I swap in Mochi to hopefully tank it for a bit while I form a new strategy. Milotic uses Scald, burning Mochi in the process, and Mochi uses a Belly Drum so that maybe he can one-shot it. She uses an Ice Beam, doing almost nothing, and Mochi lands an underwhelming Body Slam. Another Scald lands, bringing Mochi to 20 HP, and after another weak Body Slam later, I had to switch him out. So I send in Zero, and after a couple of Thunderbolts and a Scald later, Milotic was defeated. Gastrodon comes in and eats a Moonblast and takes Zero down with an Earthquake. I sent in Silver and hit with the close combat, but Gastrodon eats that too. Silver gets hit with a Rock Tomb, but I have him use Fly to avoid fainting, but Fly misses and Silver pays the price. Now I was certain it was over, but I sent in Leonardo as a last resort because Mochi only had 20 HP at this point. Leo hits with an Earthquake, but it wasn't enough to knock out Gastrodon. But then she uses a Rock Tomb, and Leonardo dodges it. Talk about lucky. One crunch later, Gastrodon was defeated. She sends in Lucario and uses Nasty Plot, but it goes down to an Earthquake. Down to the final Pokemon and her ace, Garchomp. And at this point, I thought it was over when she used Swords Dance. Leo hits with an Earthquake, doing more than I thought it would. Garchomp uses Dragon Claw, but Leo avoided it and uses Curse to hopefully tank hits. This time, Dragon Claw hits, taking Leo to half HP, but then retaliates with an Earthquake, putting Garchomp in the red. The next turn, Panic sets in after she uses a full restore, healing Garchomp to max HP. Oh man. Leo, like the hero he is, takes Garchomp to half health as well. Garchomp hits with another Dragon Claw and I thought it was over. But amazingly, Leo hangs on with only 14 HP! He then hits Garchomp with an Earthquake, and as I sit there watching in slow motion as its health goes to 0, it hit me. Leo won the battle. My starter. The one I started this entire journey with. I beat the Shining Pearl Hardcore Nuzlocke. It was over. As I went up the elevator and walked down the hall to the end of the line, I thought to myself, beating the Pokemon Shining Pearl Nuzlocke was not just a playthrough, but a test of patience, strategy, and resilience. Despite setbacks, I pushed forward, overcame challenges, and proved that with dedication, victory is possible. This journey taught me the power of perseverance and believing in myself. Here's to the battles fought, the team members lost, the lessons learned, and the triumph earned. This was my Pokemon Shining Pearl Hardcore Nuzlocke, and I beat it. Oh, and before you go, I have another thing to show you.